6:30.
Oh, it's 6:30, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody, 609. 609. We're gonna first start with public comments. Do you have any more cards? Yes.
Nope, just the.
So as everyone knows, the public comments are comments made to the Board of Education. There's a 3-minute, you have 3 minutes to make your comments. There's no dialogue, but we are listening. So we're gonna start with Christian Sando. Okay? Oh, you're fine.
I just do that.
Oh, the tickle thing. Christian Sando, whenever you're ready.
Dear school board members and Dr. Bausi, you have been telling us that you're afraid of charter schools, and if Roosevelt is not demolished, that it may fall in the hands of charter school. And I believe that's still your main concern. I don't have to say anything. But as you know, that argument was completely and unequivocally debunked by a factual presentation of Mrs. Finkelstein, whatever, during one of the meetings, factually debunked, but apparently it's still your argument. Now, you personally classified the 3-story old building as not up to code, unfit, obsolete, unsafe, and structurally unsound, right? Well, if Roosevelt is in such a bad condition, a charter school would neither want it nor have the funds to refurbish it. You really debunked your own single argument yourself. That leads me to the question: what is your current reason for demolishing Roosevelt and waste at least $2.5 million to $3 million, plus all the hidden administrative and legal costs? Dr. Bausi, why? Why is that? You owe us and the Board of Education an explanation. By the next board meeting, please. It's about time. Due to your non-transparency, your constituents can sadly only surmise that your true demolition goal has a secret component, intended to benefit someone's personal friend to whom the vacant land was promised at some time in the past. We asked a lot of people. Nobody can think of any other explanation. It's a widely believed rumor. I'm sorry, it's widely believed. The rumor is destined to become the perceived reality, and it will continue to haunt you. But we have hope. We are hopeful, Dr. Bausi, that you will respond and change your mind and sell Roosevelt promptly. Selling the building of absolute no use to the district is financially responsible and the right thing to do. It's even demanded by your own guiding principles, your own guidelines. Selling will relieve the stress of the Key Harbor people, and selling will restore the cooperative character of future West Bloomfield School District meetings, because currently they have a bad smell. So therefore, I'm requesting, Dr. Bausi, that you sell Roosevelt and put a team together to recommend something for the $2 million gain and spread it over
Thank you. Amber.
deficit reduction and education. Thank you.
You okay?
Yeah, the chair was stuck, so.
Oh, okay. It's kind of sensitive, the other one. You can push it a little bit.
I would like to request that the district provide earlier and more obvious notice to parents when the district is going to send out sexual harassment and sexual assault information directly to children. When the district recently sent out this information to 6th through 12th grade students, the parents were only notified in the district newsletter, where it was buried with other topics, less than a week before the information was emailed to students. Considering the sensitive nature of this information, which contains terms such as rape, vaginal, oral, and anal penetration, parents should have been provided more opportunity to have a prior discussion with their children. An email should have been sent out to the parents specifically on this topic, well in advance, so the parents would be more likely to see the notice and have more time to discuss with their students. Not all sixth graders are familiar with these terms, being that health class has only covered puberty so far. I would rather be able to discuss these things with my child first, rather than having them ask their friends in class, or using their school-issued Chromebooks to Google the terms to find out exactly what they mean. The communication of this was mishandled by the district, and I am asking you to do better in the future to enable parents to engage with their children on these kinds of topics. Relying on only the newsletter to communicate this kind of information can result in more important topics being lost in the noise, and the students getting red flagged for trying to understand what you are sending them. On a final note, the district is also delinquent on posting this information so that parents and guardians can access it on the district website per MCL-section 380.1508. Thank you.
Okay, Kristen?
On August 26th, my son received an email titled MDE Required Sexual Harassment Information. As a member of the Sexual Education Advisory Board, SEAB, we take great care in reviewing materials to ensure that they are age, language, and content appropriate. After personally reviewing the attached materials, I was shocked that it was proved to be sent and without being sent prior to the parents prior to the distribution. Consideration of the terms used in the document is needed, as there is a huge difference between an 11-year-old and an 11th grader. Imagine all the 6th graders Googling some of the terms presented, as Ms. Baker actually mentioned them. I reached out to Mr. Long, and I'm looking forward to connecting with him on Wednesday, as I'd like to recommend that the SEAB be charged with reviewing such materials in the future. I have a printed copy if anyone would like to review the attachment. In addition, I'd like to request that the school PTO Facebook pages be allowed to post Mrs. Baker's meeting notes. They are comprehensive and factual. As someone who sits through these meetings, I find them extremely helpful in referencing a specific topic or vote. Many families aren't able to attend the board meetings, and these notes help to keep them informed. So rather than censoring what is posted on the parent volunteer pages, let's foster a sense of community through transparency with access to information and a simple thank you to Mrs. Baker for volunteering to take on such a task. Thank you.
Just a minute, we have to read a couple notes, Kristen. Do you need a pen? Did anyone come on? Okay, everyone, agenda item number 3, SHEIKO Elementary related site work and foundation to impact 1.
Good evening, everybody. We reviewed the bid pack 1 and bid pack 2 bids at the August 19th board meeting. So we're coming here to you tonight to ask for approval. As far as the SHEIKO foundations, we received 6 bids. You can see here's a copy of our bid tabulation form from our public bid opening, which was held on August 16th. And then we received 9 bids for site work, as you can see here. So going back up to the foundations, the responsive low bidder for foundations was Midtown Group for $620,115. They were also the contractor that did the foundations on the new middle school that was recently built. And then the site work, the bid would be to Blaze Contracting for $757,000. Anything you want to add to that? Okay. And Tyler's here to answer any questions.
Who has questions or comments?
Not a question, I would be happy to make a motion.
Oh, yeah, we gotta start with that.
Yes,
You
just
guys mind?
saying.
Thank you. I was trying to get to my board vote, so thank you very much for
That's
that.
okay. I move to award a contract to Midtown Group LLC for foundations and Blaze Contracting for site work and utilities as outlined in Ox Letter of Recommendation dated September 3rd, 2024, and per enclosure 3.
Go a second. Ashley? Okay. A motion to award a contract to Midtown Group LLC for foundations and Blaze Contracting for site work and utilities as outlined in Ox Letter of Recommendation dated September 3rd, 2024, per enclosure 3, has been moved and seconded. Now we're ready for questions or comments. Does anybody have any questions? Been sitting with this for a couple of weeks. Okay, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much for that. SHEIKO Elementary Electrical Pre-Purchase Bid Pack 2 approval.
Once again, we did review this at the August 19th board meeting, but this is mainly the early procurement of critical electrical components that are needed for the new SHEIKO Elementary School. The electrical engineers identified equipment that has a very long lead time, so we want to make sure we get it ordered early enough to get it to the job site on time to put into that project. So that includes the switchboards, a new generator, transfer switches, and the surge protection equipment. We had a public bid opening on August 16th. We received 6 bids, which you can see there up on the board. And the low responsive bid was Metro Electric Engineering Technology with a bid of $217,500.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion? Carol?
I move to award a purchase order to Metro Electric Engineering Technology as outlined in Ox Letter of Recommendation dated September 3rd, 2024, per enclosure 4.
A second. Nick? Motion to award a purchase order to Metro Electric Engineering Technology as outlined in Ox Letter of Recommendation dated September 3rd, 2024, per enclosure 4 has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions, comments on that? I know it's a long lead time, so at what point of construction does this get impacted? When do they install it?
The switchboards, the generator, it's still unknown,
It's still unknown.
50 weeks to get, so,
Okay, so it's like towards
yeah.
Towards the end.
the end of
Towards
the
the end,
building,
yeah.
okay, that's why, I just wanted to see like, if we're still in our time frame.
Yep.
So when we bid out the electrical package, this equipment will be assigned to that
Okay.
particular vendor.
It's just,
Right.
it's towards the end, okay, thank you. Anyone have any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. SHEIKO Elementary Building Demo Bid Pack 3 Review, Jamie.
Okay, so this is for the demolition of the existing SHEIKO Elementary School. Tyler put out a bid package. We received bids on August 28th. We had a bid opening at 1 p.m. We received 12 bids for this, as you can see up here on the board. And the low bid is asbestos abatement. That's the name of the company. So Tyler, you want to talk a little bit about asbestos abatement?
Yeah, asbestos abatement, is out of Lansing, Michigan. They have similar like projects completed in the past year, 2 of which happened this spring. One was Willow Elementary in Lansing, and another was Duck Lake Center in Grand Valley. So they're capable of performing the work. They have all the protective dust control measures. They're very conscientious of the neighbors, so.
So you can see we have a little bit of a spread there, but the low bid is $358,250, or is it $280, $280? $358,280.
Does anyone have any questions regarding this?
Is
Carol and Art.
is there asbestos in this building that needs to be abated?
Yes, there's very little asbestos. Just to give you a rundown, so we had Arch do a NESHAP inspection of that building. NESHAP is the National Mission Standards for Hazardous Air Pollutants. I know we don't like acronyms here. And they conducted that back in June. There's essentially 17 pipe fittings, 7 lineal feet of straight pipe insulation, 340 square feet, or I'm sorry, 340 linear feet of exterior wall caulk, 120 square feet, so that's a very small area, 10 by 12, of floor tile and mastic. And then there's a myriad of fire doors and 120 square feet of door transom, so it's a very small amount of work.
So that's not part of this.
No, that is not part of this. This
You
is
have not
just,
bid this yet?
no, that is, but it was well below the bid threshold. So that came in at, that was $13,700 for that. This here, the bids that we're talking about today are for the actual demolition of the building.
Yeah, I got that, but I just
Yep.
wanted to make sure where we
Yep.
were with this, so.
I can't believe they found more flooring, I thought.
Yeah, you
And it's all
guys
taken care
had
of.
done an extensive amount of abatement at that building over the years and found very little.
My bet is it's probably
I
around
bet
the
it's-
boiler.
I was gonna say it's
something
probably
like that,
boilers or-
where-
Yeah, the boilers are fairly new in that building.
But I know that it can only be in one of those spots.
Yeah,
because-
one of those funky
yeah.
spots that's, below the radar.
Okay, so that is good to know. Right, anybody, Art, you had some questions?
You'll both be at the next meeting, is that correct?
Correct.
And we'll have an actual motion to award the contract.
Correct.
Adding on to Carol's question, so we're awarding the contract for the abatement. The firm that we've awarded to, I'm sorry, we worked with them before.
Mhm.
All right. And will that be taken care of during the demolition, and will Auk be the construction manager overseeing both the remediation and the demolition?
AUK maintains the umbrella over the entire project, but Arch will be responsible for monitoring and the asbestos abatement.
All right. Thank
It's
you.
only scheduled to take less than a week for the abatement.
All right. I'll have some more questions at the next meeting, I'm sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Deborah?
So my question, you would be, so we talked about very little asbestos and abatement.
Mhm.
So we understand what very little means, or you do, but our public may not. So how are we going to, assure the homeowners that are around that site that they are safe?
Right.
I think that, again, is there going to be some kind of communique that really discusses that we were taking care of you and your children and your families, your dogs, your pets, and your home values,
Right, correct. We have scheduled a meeting for the homeowners next Monday at 6 o'clock at the middle school, so we're gonna be sending out flyers to all the people that live around the building. But Tyler can speak a little bit to the safety protocols for the demolition of the building. But as far as the asbestos, I did talk to this company. They've been in business since 1998. 75% of their work, and this is qualified abatement, the company that's gonna be doing a small amount of abatement, that 75% of their work is in schools. And I asked him, I said, how many have you done over the years? And he's figuring around 2,500 school projects that they've worked on since they started their business. They're also a union shop, so they do a lot of training. But the asbestos abatement is highly regulated, so you have federal and state oversight over that. In addition, as another precaution, Arch Environmental also does air sampling inside and outside of the containment areas to make sure that no fibers escape during that process.
I mean, that's great. I'm just saying, just to make sure our family members know
Right.
what you just told me, so if
Yeah,
if
no,
for Monday, it's-
you wanna talk about a little bit about the construction or the demolition itself?
Yeah, so prior to starting, we'll have safety measures set up. We have a site perimeter fence with the 2 gates that will be manning and monitoring allowing traffic in and out. The building demolition process will have dust mitigation. And we'll have a full-time superintendent managing the process as well, so, limited, bodies in the area during that time.
And just so you know, the superintendent is gonna be Pat Lorraine. He was the superintendent for your middle school project, which was, as you know, very successful.
And all the last two projects, you guys do, the gym and. Art, real quick.
Is it fair to say that most school abatement and school demolition projects are in or near neighborhood settings?
Pretty much all. I mean, if you think of any school setting, they're usually neighborhood schools, so they're in and around schools.
Especially elementary.
Yeah,
schools.
that's why I was kind of trying to get a feel from the president of the abatement company. It's like, how many projects have you done? So we were trying to figure out a scale, and he said he thinks about 2,500 school projects that they've worked on over the past, 20-some years, so there's a lot of experience.
And to our ARC representative here, generally, all these projects that your company is overseeing, both in terms of abatement and demolition, they all go well. You don't have any concerns with the neighbors, any sort of hazardous materials getting out into the neighborhoods from the construction site?
Absolutely. I don't believe there's much hazardous materials on site. But Arch will be handling the removal of those prior to us doing any building demolition.
So in addition to the abatement, they're also gonna be removing all the ballast. They're gonna be removing the fluorescent light bulbs. They're going to be, pulling out anything that's considered hazardous before we actually start the demolition process.
All right, thank you.
Do those, I'm just curious, do those go in like sealed bed, like what do they do with like the balances?
The ballasts go in these tubs that are sealed up, and then they're sent back to the recycle center, and then they handle it. They have procedures to handle that.
Just one more question, sure, Karen. So, you've already mentioned the name of a company that you've picked to do the abatement. Are any of these demolition companies also able to perform that work, where we may get better pricing by having one company do a phased, abatement followed by demolition?
Well, Arch did put out a bid package, and they received 5 bids. So qualified was the low responsive bidder, but we also, based on our previous conversations, we checked on their MIOSHA violations and all that to make sure that they were the company that we felt could do the job, and they were very safe.
So you'll make sure we get all that in our report,
Yeah, we can add that, yeah.
please, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. We'll see you in a couple weeks, Tyler.
You can hang
Oh,
out
you're
if you
gonna-
want. He's gonna hang out for me, hang out for the lockers here.
Middle school lockers.
Yeah. Tyler didn't bid this one out,
It's
but
taken
he's
us 2
still.
years to get to this point, but thank you very much for the community for
All right, so
tolerating it.
we've had the discussions about the existing middle school lockers being way too small. We developed a bid package to put in, so right now we have 1,192 lockers, and they're 3-tier. I actually came in and drew some pictures so you can see what's existing. So that's the size of the existing locker, and those are stacked 3 high at the middle school. The one on the right is the size of the proposed locker. So the old lockers are 10 inches wide by 18 inches tall by 12 inches deep. The new lockers are 15 inches wide by 36 inches tall by 12 inches deep. So instead of stacked 3 high, they'll be stacked 2 high. We did bring in actual physical locker samples into the school, and then Cindy Carson, the assistant principal, worked with the students, and she had all the students come in and try the different sizes, and essentially the students picked the biggest locker, which makes a lot of sense, and they were happy with it. So we put out a bid pack to replace these lockers. Now, keep in mind, these are a lot wider, so they had to come up with more area to place these lockers. So the existing lockers are on a 4-inch base. We're gonna have to use the other side of the hallway in cases, and I did submit the drawings into the board docs as far as going through here. I can pull them out. But you can see here, it's kind of hard to see on TMP's drawing, but the pink is where the lockers will be located. So in this particular case, the ones up next to the houses are the existing lockers, and the ones across the hall are the new, the new addition, they're the new banks of lockers. So we'll have to build a 4-inch base for these new lockers across the hall. But what TMP was able to do when they went through this whole building was to keep the pods together, so that each pod will have its separate color of lockers that will all be associated with that pod in that area. So we didn't have to spread the lockers out all over the building. So they will still be kind of in tight to the houses where they belong. Now, let's go back to the bids. So we received the 4 bids. Let me get down to this here. This thing's not going very smooth here. Let's see. Okay. There we go. So Ray Haven here is the apparent bidder at $186,880. Now keep in mind, back in 2020 when this building was built, Steel Equipment Company had the bid at $159,400. This is $186,880, but keep in mind that includes the demolition of the existing lockers, the demolition of some of the drywall that is across the hall, the building of the new bases, the installation of all the new lockers, painting around the lockers. It's basically a complete package. So it's a fairly good, it's a good bid as far as price wise. Because it entails a lot of work.
And they can match the same colors?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, as you know, this has been important to me because I'm getting lots of reports that the lockers are, everyone knows the middle school lockers are too small. So I've been topping for this. But my question is, are these the lockers, the proposed lockers that I saw when I was up in the conference room?
Down.
Yeah.
Those red ones, they were similar size to that, yeah.
And what does it mean under comments clarification?
Just when a bidder submits a bid, they might clarify certain things that Hawk has to vet. Tyler in particular wasn't the manager on this particular job, but they would normally submit a sheet that says, hey, you know, instead of this gauge thickness, we're gonna submit this gauge thickness, or it could be something like that. And then the architect and the project management team then would review that to make sure it's still in compliance with the specifications.
And so I'm assuming it's in compliance?
Yes,
with all specs?
it is. And these new lockers will also have solid faces on them. They will not be vented so kids can't shove pencils and paper and stuff in there, so, just as a side note.
Or cigarettes.
Or
Somebody shoved a
cigarettes,
cigarette.
vape pens, whatever, you know.
No,
Yeah,
Wait,
I did not smoke.
there's no vents at all now?
No,
that's gonna hurt a mistake.
Well, not just that.
These are middle
I know,
school
but
kids,
the
I'm
kids-
sorry. And it won't be fragrant.
they're vented on the sides,
Okay, 'cause the kid-
they're also vented on the
On
top.
the
Wait,
top.
check?
Yeah, on
Okay.
the top. There's a slope top, but there's
It's not
still a
those
vent.
like slats.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah.
They're not vacuum. See,
No, they're not vacuum
Actually,
sealed.
do the current
No.
ones have splits?
I
Mm-hmm,
think they do.
they do,
They do. Yeah, I think they do.
yeah, they do.
You do.
I'm gonna look really quick.
Carol?
So,
What's that?
first I
They
have to
do?
express just.
Oh,
a
he
little
was the
frustration.
engineer on the job, you know, he had to check the shop drawings.
What?
Tyler was.
Three.
Alright, Carol.
I'm
First,
sorry.
I'm just gonna express frustration that we have to do this on a two-year-old, couple-year-old building. This should never have happened. That's frustrating to me because this is a lot of money that could be going into classrooms or into other things, so I just have to vet that, okay? What I can't tell from the drawing here is, is this drywall that we're gonna be knocking into? Do you have, are we losing hallway width here?
Well, so the lockers are only 12 inches deep,
Understood, but that's a foot
but
out
you
of
have
hallway.
very, very wide hallways. On the one side is gonna just be replacing what's there, which are 12 inches deep. We're only gonna lose a foot, but in some cases, you have some bump outs that have drywall that were intended, they have the whiteboard paint, the whiteboard paint on them, and they were intended to be used, but from my understanding from the principals, no one ever really uses them that way. They don't bring the kids out into the hallway and do a lesson on those walls. So those walls stick out, I think about 6 inches, five, so somewhere around there. Those will be removed, and then the lockers will go up tight against the masonry walls. Yeah.
So we're really, in essence, potentially losing 6 inches?
Losing, 4 to 6 inches.
But not a foot.
Not a foot.
You know, it doesn't seem like a lot when you say, well, you're only gonna lose a foot.
Right.
But now you're on both sides, and you've got people on both sides
Mhm.
getting into their lockers.
Right.
And that makes for a very narrow hallway versus having everybody on one side, and so.
The good thing with this building though is, as you know, the hallways are extremely wide.
And that's kind of how we ended up with just one on one side, even though they're too small, is we wanted, from my recollection, they wanted them for instructional spaces or team spaces, but if they're not using, the furniture's not even allowed. Actually, they don't, the fire marshal doesn't even want the furniture allowed.
But again, now we're ripping stuff out, we're redoing, and it's a frustration.
It is a
I just need to
frustration.
vent that.
I don't think anyone doesn't share the
And it's a
frustration.
lot- yeah, it's a
Kids
lot
have
of
the
work.
biggest frustration right now with those locker sizes.
I understand it has to be done, I really do, but,
what are you
but,
trying to
No one wants to
Again,
do
I should have
Yeah.
caught it.
Wasn't there discussion that the kids weren't using?
Well, that was
lockers
Because they couldn't
why
fit
did
their
it
code
small
standard
to begin
programming
with?
in it.
Intentionally, that was way back with the
Yeah.
design of the building. It was
Right, that's
a
what I'm
different
saying.
theory.
Okay, that's what I'm saying,
It was a different theory, but I don't remember it specifically.
but the application seems to have been off.
Just safety is now an issue, right, and so less backpacks, need more space. I mean, when I was in school, yeah, I never used my locker
Yeah,
because
that
I
was the
carried
whole
everything on my
discussion
back
at
the
the
whole day,
time.
but it's probably why
Are
I
they,
have 4
Yeah, but
but are they still using straight backpacks?
They can't.
No, they can't.
So that
They
would.
can't.
You can't.
No,
They can't.
they are not allowed to stream
Some
backpacks.
kids were leaving their coats at home because they couldn't fit them into their lockers, and that's not good.
No, okay.
Anybody else have questions on this?
Jamie, we've been talking about low cost bids. Am I correct though that we're required to accept the lowest
Qualified. That's why we vet them out.
That was what I was gonna.
Yeah, so we
You're
actually,
the lowest
I
cost
sat in
bidder.
on this one, we actually vetted out that contractor, and the architect was there also to make sure that they complied with their specifications, so everybody on the team was comfortable that they have it out there. And Ray Haven's a known entity, they've done a lot of work with schools over the years, I've worked with them on several jobs in my past.
Yeah, and you vetted the remediation and demolition contractors for sure,
Correct.
the same way.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you for that.
Alright. Is that it?
When will the lockers, when is the
So,
install lockers in the summer?
As you know, lockers take a long time, it's like a giant Tinker Toy set, so it's gonna take a long time to build them and put them together, so that's really a summer project. And there's probably, what, about 16-week lead right on them now?
Yeah, 16
After
weeks.
approval. Yeah, so about 16-week lead by the time we get them in and have them ready. I mean, they could try to do little banks, but it wouldn't really be that helpful if they did a little section at a time, you know. So really, it's just gonna be a wholesale, do it next summer, get it all done.
Makes sense, because it's the construction on the opposite sides of the wall. Okay. Alright, thank you both.
Thank you for the drawings,
Thanks, Tom.
too. Very helpful.
Oh, the drawing?
Yeah.
Yeah, for scale.
Very good.
I brought my tape there.
With the pods that go.
Yeah. Jamie, could you like mind
Yeah,
these
sure.
items come up, the insulin litigation?
Oh, no, we're in enrollment.
Enrollment?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Okay, so item number 7 on our agenda is our enrollment update, and we're at this, is to see if we're still having an innovation or the rest of it.
We have an update.
Oh. Sorry. Go ahead.
We have an update for you on our current enrollment. As you know, our enrollment changes daily. Students move in, students move out. So, this is, as of a couple days ago. As it seems last year, we have the 3-year enrollment trends. This is our head count. We won't have an FTE until after count, and, we won't actually get the audited, FTE until about February. So what we do have right now is head count. And our head count is, significantly higher than our FTE because it counts every student who's in our system, even if that student, doesn't count as a full-time student. So those are students like refuge students or, other programs that we run. So here is our current, this was as of 9/3. You can see right here, head count for this year, our SOC and non-resident head count, and then our kindergarten enrollment head count as of 9/3. As of 9/3, there were still 36 students in the queue to register. Those students were in these grades here: 6 kindergartners, 8 first through 5th graders, 7 6th through 8th graders, and 15 9th through 12th graders. Those are not included in the numbers above. We don't include them until after they actually complete the enrollment process. Not every student who's in the queue actually completes the enrollment process. Here is the 3-year enrollment trend for head count, SOC and non-resident enrollment, and kindergarten enrollment. And that's from the data from the previous slide. And then here are our 3-year kindergarten trends. You can see that this year we have 347 resident kindergartners, which is an increase from last year's 225 residents. In terms of school choice, as of 9/3, we had school choice and non-resident kindergarten enrollees. So our trends for those two, the blue line is kindergarten enrollment, showing a little bit of an increase, and SOC kindergarten trend is showing a little bit of a decrease. Next, we have each of the grade levels for K through 12 students. So this does not include our refuge students, does not include our VLAC students, project search type partial FTEs. It is our K-12 program. And this compares to last year. You can see in this column right here, these are how many students we have enrolled in each grade level, and then of those students, how many of them are SOC or non-residents. We have that for K through 5th. And then on the next slide, you'll see the percentage of students in each grade level that is SOC or non-resident. So that ranges for a low point in our 3rd grade of 24.68 to a high point of 34.10 for our 5th grade. We have the same data for you for 6th through 12th. I will note that 12th grade includes our programs at West Bloomfield High School, Labor Opportunity Center, OEC, and the IA. So that's 4 different programs that are counted. And those have a significant, some of those programs have a significant number of seniors in them. So you can see that reflected right here in the data. Again, the columns show our enrollment and then the number of students who are SOC or non-resident. We have those calculated for each grade level with the percentage, and those range again from a low point of 33.14 in our 7th grade up to our 12th grade, which is 46.57. A significant portion of that is our OEC program, which has 78 students in it. Okay. So here's a comparison year over year of our schools of choice percentages overall from the previous slides. So you can see 2 years ago it was 37.69, and this year it's at 35.27. We're still enrolling, so that may change a little. Our school of choice enrollment is done, but there's still some resident enrollment. Some people are still showing up. So we just had a few families that just moved in the last week, so they're still enrolling. We have chosen to track what happens with the new building at the middle school. So we did track that again this year. And what we want to see is what kind of an impact a new building has on enrollment. So what we did is we pulled all of the new residents who are enrolling at the middle school and where were they if they weren't here in 5th grade. And what we found was that we have 9 that came back to us from academies. 2 are new to Michigan, so they just moved to Michigan for work-related things for their parents. We did enroll 10 students that came from private schools back to our schools. And then the other counts people who are moving on or who may have been SOC in another district and came back to West Bloomfield. So they may have enrolled their own child SOC somewhere else and then came back to West Bloomfield. So that added up to 39 new resident students at the middle school. And we tracked this for 3 years. Just to give us an idea, and we will track the same thing when SHEIKO opens and then when BOE opens as well to see what kind of an impact that has for a brand new building. But it's pretty significant. For our pre-K program, we have 83 that are currently enrolled in GSRP. We have 95 spots. We expect those to be filled by next week. So those students are enrolling. And then with the new changes in preschool, we do have some changes that are happening right now. Two of our tuition-based classrooms, we are changing those into extended GSRP, the extended GSRP classroom model. But that has not, the process for that has not been finished, so they are working on that right now. As you know, we enroll throughout the year in preschool, that tuition number we expect to go up. We do have more students who are enrolling for 5 days rather than 3 days. We used to have a lot of students who would enroll for 3 days. So less students actually take up more days because they're enrolling for additional days. So the count's a little bit different there. So that's where we're at with preschool. Really good news on our GSRP, that we're approved for more spots, and then that we're also going to be able to convert to classrooms.
Okay, that was a snapshot in time.
Just a snapshot.
And it's not FTE, so we can't convert anything to dollars or anything like that. Okay, good.
Okay, I noticed on your first slide, you said head count, it went down 133, SOC also went down 126. That's where the majority of it came. Does that mean our resident count is stayed relatively stable?
Yeah, we're seeing the, well, we accepted less schools of
I know.
choice at elementary, so that's why, because of, we accepted 104 at the elementary, and before we've been accepting 130, so our residents are staying stable,
That's the
our
plan.
SOC is going down.
For the 104 criteria base.
Yep.
For the first time.
Yep, all criteria based for STEAM. And of those, we had 71 kindergartners, and the rest were 1 through 5.
Deborah's first.
Oh, sorry, Deborah.
Question for you, of the resident students who are attending schools outside of WB, how many students are those?
Well, we don't have access to all of them because if they never enter our system ever, like let's say they choose a private school from kindergarten on. But our estimate is that we have approximately 800 to 900 students who are attending other places, homeschool, private schools, charter schools, wherever they have school choice.
I know we were able to get the numbers before in prior years, and I'm not quite sure how I can look back and see, but
Yeah.
we always had some numbers that would tell us.
So we do get a report of anyone that we know. And that will come after the count.
I think open schools looks at it.
They do.
Mm,
You know, how many
Yeah,
are
that's,
signed.
yeah.
But I think it's after they're all
Okay,
audited and, I don't know if that's the right word.
thank you.
So this is great data to have, and I know it's gonna take time for count day, because it's not for another few weeks, but at some point shortly after count day, when this all settles down, I'd like to have an understanding of how especially that elementary enrollment correlates to building utilization. Now that we went from 5 elementaries to 4, what does that look like as far as building utilization? If we could get that, that would be great.
Yes.
Good, is that?
Okay, thanks everyone. Thank you. Okay, item number 8 is insulin litigation review. This is Dr. Debbie Bazey, superintendent will address the board.
Right, so similar to in the past with the social media litigation and the vaping litigation against Juul, there's another litigation that's being brought forth in terms of insulin manufacturers. They seem to have been inflating insulin prices that has had a negative impact on schools' healthcare premiums, as well as other reasons. So we have seen school districts in Michigan have seen increased costs to their healthcare, costs to their employees, as a result of some of this. This lawsuit, again, is very similar to the Juul litigation and the social media litigation, where the only thing that's really required of us is to complete about a 4 to 5 hour survey, to give them certain information with regards to our healthcare costs and how that's been impacted. For example, the Jewel litigation, similar, 4 to 5, and the lowest payment to a district in Michigan was about $8,000 for about 4 to 5 hour works of work. The law firm gets nothing from us unless they're successful in their litigation against, and so there's really not much risk to the district in terms of moving forward. There's a resolution for the board to consider, to vote on at the next meeting, if we wanna join this lawsuit. I did have, Truan actually sent this out, and really did not have any, concerns. I am attending like a webinar this week on it, just to be able to get a little bit more information before the regular meeting. But, you know, given the potential benefits, we'll bring this forward at the next board meeting.
Anyone have any questions about this? I don't think we did the Jewel.
We did the social media. Jewel was before I came on.
Yeah, I don't
I thought we did Jewel
Did we
too.
do it?
I
don't
remember it
too.
all. I think we did.
Alright, so
I'm sure we
I
did.
must have totally lost that in my brain.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, I mean, it's fine, you don't have to check, don't waste your time, I just
I'm
don't
trying to
remember.
talk.
I was the,
The baby, yeah.
I know we talked about baby, but I don't remember that one at all. It's just fine, we might have done it. Okay, so does anyone have any questions or concerns about this one? Alright, so we'll bring that to, the September board meeting. Okay, thank you, Donna. And good for the order, item number 9, I know Carol has 2 things, does anyone else have that? It's got something too, okay.
You can go first. Okay.
Here's more pretty, I'm sure.
No, well, one's just more of a personal privilege, but, so every 2 years, MASB holds sessions around the state to set legislative priorities for the upcoming legislative session. In open schools, we will be hosting it. There will be one for Region 8 in Wayne, there will be one in Macomb, and then one in Oakland. Our Oakland County one will be on Thursday, November 14th at 7 p.m. So just keep an eye out for your
What's the
email.
I think the emails came yesterday.
Okay,
I
yeah,
think the emails came
I
out.
didn't get the email about the registration yet.
Not
It's-
registration, just the
Yeah,
dates.
we'll be registering people for that, so I can get a head count for snacks, just saying. Hey, the important stuff, I gotta feed you people.
Can I just add something to that?
Yeah.
That you don't, it's really good if everybody goes and we sit at different tables and go to the open one, but like, I know that I'll be out of town that day, so I will go to another one, because it's really important to register your boys. And it doesn't need to be like all of us at the table, it should be spread out.
We should be spread out, and it really works well, we'll have tables, so we can get groups of 6 or 8 people and hash it out, and then we all come together. So if you've never done it before, I highly recommend that you participate, just to understand what we think the issues are, but what other people think the issues are. It's fascinating to see some of the things that rise to the surface. So if you can't make it to the open one, I can get you the link. Yeah, and I can send it to you, that's got, the dates for the neighboring, ones to come out. But ours is gonna be like one of the very last ones. So try to go to something.
Yeah, when we went last time, it was very good.
Yeah, it was great, because last time, Bloomfield hosted us at the farm.
Yeah, it was good.
So this time, sorry, I'm hosting
Oh,
you.
I remember.
My only other thing is in 2 weeks, I now have a conflict, so I will ask to be excused from this meeting for at least part of it. My open schools board meeting had to be moved up a day because I'm part of a delegation leaving to go to Washington DC the next day. And I've got congressional meetings Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So, I will miss at least part of this meeting. We start a little bit earlier. If it's short, I can maybe text Danya, because you guys shouldn't be texting during a meeting, to see if it's worth it for me to hike it back here, or if
It's usually the library doing the rewards, are we doing that?
We are doing that.
So that usually.
Yeah, so it may be,
This is a
if,
fun
you know,
one.
if my agenda out there is short and I can hook it over,
You text
I will
her
just be
or
late.
Liz.
And, but this just kills me, because this will be the first regular meeting or study session in 13 years that I've missed. So that is that's why I wanted the excuse,
And you
that
think
is
you
my,
deserve an excuse.
and that is my reason for, like, I will hoof it down here if I have to try to get here, so I hope you will, excuse me for that, and that's all I have.
Okay, next.
I was just gonna say, I may also be a little bit late to a couple of study sessions, but I have a very good reason. My granddaughter, and my daughter signed me up to take her to soccer or something or other, and it's on Mondays, and I got here on time today, so we're good, but that, I think it's a good excuse, I will try to get it. Depends on cooperation.
Anyone else? Art?
Regarding the presentation we had about the enrollment trends, we had estimated for budget purposes what we thought the enrollment was gonna be this year. Are we in the neighborhood?
We're in the neighborhood, yeah, a little bit lower, but yeah, we're pretty close. And the plan will be after January, because we've made adjustments to school of choice, we've made adjustments to how we're enrolling. We'll probably have Dr. Frederick Nanovich, who's out of Michigan State University, do an updated projection for us, just because so much has changed since we did the last prediction, but we use that as well as Sylvia, our pupil accountant, to make, there's formulas and things to make a prediction. And so most likely, because we've made changes to how we're enrolling and certain things, we'll probably update that in January so that when we make a prediction for the next year's budget, that we have updated numbers. And he's like a public servant. I mean, it's almost nothing for him to provide that report, so it's a good thing to do nonetheless.
Quick question.
Yep.
Also referring to the budget, so the state, pardon my French, screwed us over when they didn't give us any money this year for the security and mental health line item.
Well, they gave us a tiny amount, they cut 300 million.
I can maybe give you a bit of an update and some optimism, but after he's done.
That's pretty much what I was getting at.
Yes.
Do you know any more about what the legislature might do this fall regarding that line item, restoring it possibly?
They are going to if they show up for
It's a
work,
lot of assumptions.
if they show up for work the way they say they're gonna show up for work,
They have one day
You
that
know,
they're scheduled and it's
I
Wednesday.
know, it's a
One
lot.
day.
I know.
I don't know why they're getting
That is a
paid.
priority, is to try to get that addressed, and potentially also to address the mixers issue.
Codify.
To kind of codify that, whether that's a glide path or that's one, however that works out is unknown yet, but there may be, at least for now, a little reason to be optimistic. Okay, I will know more by the 23rd for sure.
And about how much, by them zeroing that out right now, having heard about how much money they did not get this year for that.
It was roughly, we got more because Johanna keeps asking for more money. Like, not all schools spend it, so if you keep asking, we got close to $1 million last year for the safety and security. They cut it down to 85,000. But in a typical year, was it 6 or 8 that we would get for safety and security? It was between 5 and 600. We got $1 million because other people didn't use it, and we said, we'll use it. But, so it was a net reduction of about $500,000.
Thank you.
More to come from the legislature.
Yeah, I'll keep you
To do their
posted.
job.
As soon as I know more, I will do a broadcast to all of you, but it's literally like, we'll see. But I'm hearing optimism.
I'm hearing both sides.
We just have to get them up there. That's the biggest thing is,
If you want anybody to drive them up there,
well, I got one in our backyard, and I'll drive up there.
They're campaigning, that's what they're getting paid to do right now, is campaigning.
I just need to.
All right, item number 10 is adjournment, so we are done, thank you everybody, it's 7:22.
Thank you for doing kind work, kind of work.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Carrie.